You mentioned this is the energy that heals, I think, when you started, right? You said this is the energy that heals, the people are bringing this energy. Why do you think so many people lack the energy to create the vision, the dream that they want? Is it something they're missing? Is it something they don't have access to? Or they lack that energy that heals and draws to them their dreams?
I think that, we live in chronic disbelief. What if the truth was that you're greater than you think, more powerful than you know, more unlimited than you could ever dream? If that was the truth, that you are the creator of your life, you have to start. If you believe that to be the truth, then you have to believe in yourself. And your belief in yourself must be earned. It must be earned. And the only way that we can believe in a future is when we feel the emotion associated with it. Because if you feel the emotion associated with it, your body is your unconscious mind. It's so objective, it does not know the difference between the real life experience that's creating that emotion and the emotion that you're creating by thought alone. And so you're giving your body a taste emotionally of the future. And the stronger the emotion you feel, the more you remember that future. And you literally are embossing the circuitry for you to believe in it more. So if we default and become the victim of our life, and we say that some person or some circumstance or some condition is causing me to feel this way and to think this way, the moment we become angry or frustrated or guilty or unworthy or afraid or anxious, we can't believe in that future any longer. Those emotions are associated with past memories. And those emotions cause us to behave as if we were in our past, make choices that are equal to our past, and believe in our past. And more people believe in their past than they believe in their future. And it's so much easier to forget your vision of the future than to remember it. And so if that's the truth, then if you understood that this emotion that you're feeling is really a creative emotion, living in fear and living in anger and living in hostility and hatred and judgment and resentment, that has nothing to do with your future. It has everything to do with the past. And so the problem is that we get addicted to those emotions that keep us connected to the past, and there's a story that goes with that past. And so many people believe in that story, and why not believe in a different story? And it usually takes crisis or trauma or disease or diagnosis or loss for people to finally make up their mind to change. But that default that takes place so seamlessly when we feel the emotions of our past causes us to think the same way, to act the same way, and to feel the same way. And how you think, how you act, and how you feel is called your personality. And your personality creates your personal reality. That's it. That's it. So the present personality who's sitting here today called you is created the present personal reality called your life. That's the truth. So if you wanted to create a new personal reality, a new life, you would have to change your personality. And the first step in that is becoming conscious of your unconscious thoughts, those thoughts that say, I can't, it's too hard, I'll never change, it's my ex's fault, it's a, whatever,
It's all the ex.
Or if you really truly wanted to be a happy person, you would have to stop complaining. You would have to stop blaming, you'd have to stop allowing your environment to control how you're feeling and thinking. And if you truly wanted to become a new personality, you would have to decide that the emotion of lack cannot belong in an abundant person. Oh, this is where the rubber hits the road now. Because how could you believe in a future that you haven't seen yet? And the end product of an experience in three-dimensional reality is called an emotion. And so most people wait for their wealth to feel abundant. They're waiting for their new relationship to feel love. They're They're waiting for their success to feel empowerment. They're waiting for their healing to feel wholeness or gratitude. That's the old model of reality. So then you got to trade that emotion of your past, and that story's got to go with it. And when you overcome your emotions, you master your creations. And that's freeing the body from the past. So the person who wants to become wealthy, they got to romance wealth.
Romance it.
They have to romance it, and you have to start thinking about how a wealthy person would think, how a wealthy person would act, how a wealthy person would feel, and you would have to become that personality, and that personality really should begin to create some change in your personal reality. You know, the synchronicities that are not just parking spaces, you know, not that stuff, but the bigger stuff that would stretch your belief, so that when you see the synchronicity, all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I created that. Is that possible that I actually created that? Now you start believing more that you're the creator of your reality instead of the victim of your reality. And that's the truth. And you cannot experience that truth unless you step in the realm of creation. And in order for you to arrive at that wealth, you have to make it very clear decision that that person who wants the wealth and who is in lack of having it is going to have to make a lot of changes to finally run into that goal or vision of their wealth. You can't create a new personal reality as the same personality. You got to become someone else. That means you got to give up some aspect of those unconscious thoughts, behaviors, and emotions that are programmed because we do them so much and think that way. And that's the hard part of change. When people do the work, I want to be really clear. They don't do the meditations to heal. They do the meditations to change. And they understand that when I change, my body will change. My life will change. That's the experiment they're involved in. So this energy, this feeling that you have, the fundamental question is, when you leave this place, can you take it with you every day? Could you remember this feeling, and could you bring it up on your own? Now you're becoming the creator of your life, because now you'll believe more in that future and less in your past. And then you'll default, just like we all do, but how many times do you have to forget until you stop forgetting and start remembering? That's called the moment of change. And that's catching yourself from defaulting seamlessly back to that old personality that has been programmed for us to be victims. That if you say to someone, why are you so unhappy? Why are you so mad? Why are you so angry? Oh, it's that person, it's that circumstance that's causing me to feel this way and think this way. Well, that's an unconscious program. A person is saying that someone in their outer world or some condition is controlling. It's controlling their feelings, controlling their thoughts. Anything that's controlling us, we're victims to. And that's got to change. So then, to overcome victimization is worth more than all the wealth in the world, because that's exactly what creates the wealth. That's exactly what creates the health. It's the overcoming process that is the becoming process, and that's how you arrive at that vision. And this energy is the energy that takes you there. And you got to be able to bring that up on your own. That means you got to come out of your resting state. And that when coming out of your resting state and not allowing or waiting for someone or something to do it for you, but doing it on your own, wow, there's sovereignty and there's empowerment in that. That's how any person arrives at their dream. They just don't let their energy drop. And if they do, they get back into that state again. And they earn the belief in themselves.
I like to ask, kind of quirky questions for myself, but I think some people like them. First off, what are the emotions of lack, so that people can make a distinction and say, I don't think about lack, I'm not in lack, but maybe they are based on certain emotions. So what are the emotions that cause us to feel in our bodies lacking as opposed to abundant? And caveat, how much of those lacking emotions can we have on a daily basis and still be abundant?
Woo! That's a good question.
You know what I mean? Is it 50% victimhood and we're still gonna be good? Is it angry 20% of the time? Is it how much wiggle room can we give ourselves grace and still, I'm still gonna be able to get my dream? So what are the emotions of lack, and how much time can we really allow ourselves to be in a state of frustration or sadness and still be abundant?
Yeah, I got it. But we create based on lack. We create based on separation. You see the sports car, you see the wardrobe, you see the scene, you see the vacation, and you see that experience that you want. Your brain naturally goes, oh God, that would be so wonderful to be in that reality, to be in that future. Based on the lack of not having it, in the plane of duality and separation, the lack causes us to dream about having it.
Mm-hmm.
So the natural thing is to dream of a new possibility based on your understanding that you don't have that experience yet. You understand?
Yes.
So then now, that vision of that future, the brain naturally creates. For the passionate person, that vision where they're seeing that future, they put themselves in that future. And when they do that, they feel the emotion of that future. And they're actually doing that by thought alone. So once they feel the feeling of that future, they can believe in that future because they felt it.
Interesting.
Right? And they'll tell you there's nobody or no one or no circumstances. I know that I could create that. And you've all done it. Everybody in this room has done something great. And you kept that vision alive in your mind, and you got your behaviors to match your intentions. You got your actions equal to your thoughts. You got your mind and body working together. You stopped thinking certain thoughts like, I can't, it's too hard, I don't feel like it, I'll never change. You had to make different choices, and the hardest part about change is not making the same choices the day before, and that means you're going to get uncomfortable. You stop doing the same things, the same habits, sitting on the couch, whatever it was. You didn't have time to complain, that stuff. You start staying away from the experiences with certain people and certain circumstances. You didn't want to live that anymore. And you had to really get beyond your emotional feelings and do it anyway. And we do this all the time. And then you run, and all of a sudden the synchronicities start to happen, and everybody's experienced this. And the next thing you know, the experience occurs, and you feel the emotion from that experience, and it takes away the lack or separation from not having it. So the emotion is the end product of the experience in three-dimensional reality.
Say it again. The emotion is what?
The end product of the experience. It's the payoff. The payoff from the experience, having the experience, is the emotion that is the consequence of the experience. And that emotion is all the sensory information that you're perceiving, everything you're seeing and hearing and smelling and tasting and feeling. All that information is rushing back to your brain, and jungles of neurons are organizing into networks. And when they string into place, another part of the brain called the chemical brain, the limbic brain, the emotional brain, begins to make chemicals to produce that emotion. And that emotion then takes away the lack. And now you say, I created that, and then you go to the next one. Now you can get really good at doing this. You could study, you could get schooled, you can get coached, you can learn from your mistakes, you could get disciplined, and you can accumulate more things. You can get better at doing that. But there is another way to create where you don't have to do so much. And those are laws that transcend just typical Newtonian laws. And what if you were to feel the emotion of the future before it happened every single day? Remember that feeling, and that feeling was for your heart to fall in love with your life, to fall in love with your vision. You'd have to awaken that heart. If you could do that and marry that with the vision of your future, I promise you it'll be easier to make choices to step into that future. I guarantee you'll believe in it and do things to advance yourself into that future, and you step right into it. So then if it doesn't happen when we want it to happen, you know what I mean? Like people stop me and they say, well, I've been creating my reality for 3 days, nothing happened. And I say to them, you're not that good. Look, I don't know what else to tell you. You're not that good. Or they'll say, how come I'm not living in Mallorca with my 2 dogs and a lover? I'm like, because the person who's living in Mallorca looks nothing like you. Like, that's not what the person looks like. So when it doesn't happen, the lack becomes greater.
And then what do we
And
do?
because lack is separation, and separation is based on time. And so when you imagine that vision of your future, you're putting your attention in a future reality. You have one point of consciousness, that's your future, and you are making the choice from this point of consciousness that that's where you want to go. And the distance between those two is called time. So time is based on lack or separation. Are you with me?
Yes.
And when it doesn't happen, we start to feel more lack and more separation, so we start to force outcomes.
So we try harder.
Try harder, we manipulate, we compete, we fight. Because trying is what you do when you're in lack. And so the person's living in separation their whole entire life, waiting for the event to occur to take away the feeling of not having it. And it could be their whole entire life.
Wow.
And that becomes a program. So then you ask them, why are you this way? Well, because life isn't working for me. That's the belief that they have.
It's unfair.
And they'll have a whole story that goes along with it. So then, if you could fall in love with your future, and the heart produces a very strong magnetic signature, and you get your brain coherent and working really well, that intention that you have has a signal in the field. And we've measured this. And so then if you could begin to experiment by changing your energy, could it change my life? That's the experiment. I'm just curious. If you started doing it, that you could actually shorten the distance between the thought of what you want and the experience of having it. And all of a sudden, you're no longer going anywhere to do it. It's kind of coming to you. Now, if you experiment like that and then you are successful at it and you start seeing the synchronicities, I guarantee you're going to keep it up.
Yes.
I guarantee you it's not going to be like, oh God, I got to go fall in love with my future now. It's not going to be like that. You're going to be like, whoa, like it's happening, like whatever that is, that I don't know what it is, but you're changing your energy. And so to become a creator in your life and truly practice it, if you're feeling the feeling of your future, you can't look for it. How could you look for it if you feel like it already happened? And we cannot attract anything in our life that we feel separate from. And that means you got to maintain that modified state of mind and body to keep your vision alive. And if you do, the experiment should be, hey, I'm doing this to experiment. Is it the truth? I'm doing it for the truth, to take the belief and actually behave that way to ultimately become the creator of my life. And so that you fall in that zone, you fall into that flow. And now you're gonna want to feel that feeling more than you're gonna want to feel your victimization. And that's when you no longer belong to your past, that's when you belong to your future.
But how angry can we be every day
Oh yeah, we didn't get to that yet.
and still be abundant? How
Well,
much
listen.
can we fall from grace?
Yeah. Abundance is just one experience in the infinite number of experiences I believe that we could have as creators. And people they just forget all the wonderful things they did or became when they created that abundance, and they went unconscious.
Why do we forget what we've created in our past? All the things we've accomplished and achieved. Why is it so easy to forget? Man, I've already accomplished so many things that were hard. I learned so many things. Why do we forget that?
All right, let me answer this question though. But you were asking me about how
Yes,
to
yeah.
be angry and
Yes.
still be abundant.
Tie that at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
You could be angry and be an abundant person.
You can be.
You certainly can.
All day angry?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you can do that if you want. And you can just be unhappy your whole entire life.
Yeah.
And I've sat with billionaires. I've sat with them, and you know what they say to me? They say, I've said it more than once. We are miserable. We are in agony. You know why? Because they can't be present enough to enjoy a sunset, even though they're on a yacht. They can't be present enough to enjoy a great meal. They just can't be present with their families. They can't be present. And so, like, that's not the life you want. What you want, abundant people want to be free.
Yes.
That's what they really want. Free to do it, right? And really, if your model of abundance is that you have so much more than you need, that you would give it away, that would be an abundant person, yes or no?
Yes.
And so your experience of abundance in the experiment called life can be way more than being an angry, abundant person. Yes or no?
Yeah.
So then what? So you develop that skill of abundance, but there are certain skills and habits and choices and character that you created. You take that with you. You take that with you to the next dream. There should, if you're not being defined by a vision of your future, then you're left to the memories of your past, and you'll be predictable in your life. And wow, it's so much easier to forget that vision than to remember. That means you got to make time to remember it. You got to make time to decide who you're no longer going to be, and you got to make time for who you are going to be. And so the experiment can continue, and you should be facing adversity.
You should be.
You should be facing adversity in the midst of change.
It shouldn't be easy.
Should be earned. Should be earned.
Should be earned.
Because that means you put your time in. And that means that this is how greatness is created, when you show up to create when you don't feel like it. When you sit with yourself and not allow your mind to go to the past and all the problems and all the things, and instruct your mind to go to that vision of the future, that's a victory.
Come on.
That is the overcoming process. We discovered that when you're sitting with yourself and you go past the point where you would normally stop because of your disbelief, you go past that point, that's when the brain changes the most. That's when you're stepping into the unknown.
What does that moment look like for people? Like, what is that?
That moment looks like I want to quit. That moment looks like I want to give up. That's the end of their emotional belief. But if you show up to be a creator in spite of those voices, in spite of the mismanagement of your attention and energy and not having enough time, or feeling, something happened in your day and it caused you to not want to create, the days that you show up anyway, and you remember that's the belief in your future, and that's your passion, you will earn that future. And that is the overcoming process that allows you to become anything, abundant or healthy or whatever it is that people want.
What will ensure that we don't earn our future dreams?
I think people get in the habit of no longer believing in themselves. I think it's a habit, because they listen to those voices, they sit and they can't settle their emotions.
Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches that most people spend their entire lives waiting for something external to happen so they can finally feel complete, healed, or abundant. They believe that once they achieve the car, the relationship, or success, happiness will follow. But according to Dr. Joe Dispenza, this is the most common mistake of the human mind, believing that change comes from the outside. Dr. Joe Dispenza explains that 95% of who we are is controlled by unconscious programs, repeated emotional and mental patterns built over years. This means that even when we want to change, we continue acting from the past. And as Dr. Joe Dispenza says, the body becomes the mind of the past. The body grows accustomed to pain, fear, and guilt, and even when the mind wants to move forward, the body still lives in old emotions. For Dr. Joe Dispenza, change is a deeply biological act. It involves reconditioning the brain and retraining the body to a new state of being. He teaches that when we repeat the same emotions, the body develops a chemical addiction to those feelings. Without realizing it, we live like addicts to negative emotions. Dr. Joe Dispenza states that this is the true emotional prison. The body has become more powerful than the mind. Nothing in life changes until you change. And change, according to Dr. Joe Dispenza, means breaking the habit of being yourself. It involves observing automatic thoughts and redirecting attention to the desired future. It is the moment you stop being the result of the past and become the creator of the future. Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches that the discomfort of change is inevitable. The body resists, fear arises, and the old self tries to return. But it is precisely at this point that the miracle begins. When we persist in awareness, old circuits dissolve, hormones shift, and new genes are activated. Dr. Joe Dispenza calls this intentional neuroplasticity, the power to shape the brain through conscious repetition and elevated emotion. Nothing in the external world changes until internal change occurs. And Dr. Joe Dispenza demonstrates, based on neuroscience, that the brain and body cannot distinguish between the real and the imagined. When you combine a clear intention with an elevated emotion, love, gratitude, joy, the body believes the future is happening now. This, says Dr. Joe Dispenza, is how a new reality is created. Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches that creating is not waiting for the effect. It is causing the effect. While most people live in the old model of reality, when I have success, I will be happy, he proposes the quantum model. When I feel happy, I will begin to attract success. Emotion is the signal that sends intention to the quantum field. And as Dr. Joe Dispenza explains, this field responds not to desires, but to the emotional vibration we emit. For Dr. Joe Dispenza, the secret lies in sustaining the emotion of the future even when nothing seems to change. Most people revert to the old self at the first obstacle, but those who remain steadfast create coherence between the brain and heart. When this coherence is achieved, the heart emits a powerful electromagnetic field that alters the surrounding reality. Dr. Joe Dispenza states that the heart is the true creative center. When we vibrate in love and gratitude, the brain synchronizes and opens doors to synchronicities and opportunities that seem miraculous. This is where the spiritual and scientific unit, something Dr. Joe Dispenza calls the elevated present moment. Forgiveness, according to Dr. Joe Dispenza, is essential. Forgiving releases the energy that keeps the body trapped in the past. It means letting go of the old identity. When you forgive, the heart opens, and the body releases accumulated emotional burden. In that instant, says Dr. Joe Dispenza, the energy field expands and a new reality begins to manifest. Dr. Joe Dispenza also explains that the mind is not a place, but a frequency. Every thought sends a wave of energy that interacts with the field. That is why he says we do not attract what we want, but what we are. When you become the vibration of what you desire, the universe responds. Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches that the moment you feel gratitude, healing begins. When you feel worthy, abundance draws near. When you fall in love with yourself, love manifests. It is in this state that the future becomes the present. But Dr. Joe Dispenza also warns, transformation is not an event, it is a process. It requires discipline to train the body to remain in the new emotional state. It requires awareness to avoid falling into old reactions. It requires courage to continue even when nothing seems to change. Dr. Joe Dispenza states that change means abandoning the old personality and sustaining the new self until it becomes natural. It is a daily practice of being who you want to become. With every meditation, every conscious breath, you are sculpting a new brain, a new body, and a new reality. In the